5:47 a.m. The alarm didn't just ring, it accused me. Before my eyes were even open, my brain had already pulled up the inbox. 3 emails from my boss. A payment reminder from the hospital. That invoice sitting on the kitchen counter I've been flipping face down for 2 weeks because I don't have the number to make it go away. But bills don't care about your feelings. Deadlines don't pause for your panic. So I got up. Showered like a zombie. Poured coffee I didn't even want. Drove to work on autopilot while my stomach twisted itself into knots over a conversation I knew was coming with my supervisor. The kind of conversation where you nod and say, "I'll do better," while something inside you quietly breaks. I pulled into the parking lot at 7:23 a.m. The office building looked gray and indifferent under a sky that couldn't decide if it wanted to rain or just threaten it. I turned off the engine. And then I didn't move. For 20 minutes. 20 minutes. My hands stayed locked on the steering wheel like I was bracing for impact. The coffee in the cup holder had gone cold, that sad, room temperature bitter that only makes mornings worse. A light drizzle started spotting the windshield. The dashboard clock ticked to 7:43. I watched people walk in with their lanyards swinging, their umbrellas popping open, their faces set to professional. And I just sat there, frozen, because I knew the second I walked through those doors, the weight would hit me full force. The expectations. The criticism. The unspoken demand to be faster, smarter, more available. I wasn't just tired. I was scared. Scared of failing again. Scared of being seen as weak. Scared that I was already seen that way and nobody bothered to tell me. Some fears have names. Others just sit on your chest at 7 in the morning in a parking lot while the rain gets harder and you wonder if anyone would notice if you just drove away. Are you in that parking lot right now? Maybe not literally. Maybe yours is a kitchen table. A hospital waiting room. A cubicle you've cried in twice this month. A bedroom where you're the only one awake at 3 a.m. scrolling through bills, diagnoses, text messages that went unanswered. Your heart is racing before the day even begins, and you can't name half the things you're afraid of. You just know the weight is there. And you're tired of pretending it's not. And here's what I'm learning, slowly, painfully, honestly: you don't have to be strong enough. You just have to know whose you are. That sounds like a bumper sticker until you're sobbing in a parked car at 7:43 a.m. and the only thing that pulls you out is a truth you almost forgot. The night before that parking lot breakdown, I was wide awake at 2 a.m. The house was silent. My spouse was asleep. The world was asleep. But my mind was running a highlight reel of every mistake I'd made that week. You know the 2 a.m. theater where your brain replays conversations, rewrites emails, invents worst-case scenarios, and convinces you that everyone is disappointed and you're one mistake away from everything falling apart. I grabbed my phone to doom scroll, but something stopped me. I opened my Bible app instead. Not because I'm super spiritual. Honestly, it was half desperation, half habit. I scrolled to Isaiah, I don't even remember why, and landed on chapter 54. And there it was. Verse 17. No weapon forged against you will prevail. I read it 3 times. Then I read it again with tears dripping onto my phone screen. Because I realized something I'd never put words to before: I've been fighting weapons I didn't even know were weapons. The email isn't just an email, it's a weapon of anxiety. The silence from that friend isn't just silence, it's a weapon of rejection. The memory of what they said isn't just a memory, it's a weapon of shame. And I'd been letting them land. Every single day. But this verse didn't say the weapons wouldn't be forged. It said they wouldn't prosper. They wouldn't win. They wouldn't have the final word. That hit me harder than any sermon ever has. Because it meant the battle wasn't about avoiding attack, it was about knowing the outcome was already decided. Here's the truth I'm holding on to now, and I want you to hold it with me. The weapon can be forged. The email can come. The diagnosis can be real. The betrayal can happen. The rejection can sting. The fear can knock on your door at 2 a.m. and the pressure can sit on your chest at 7:43 in the morning. But none of it, not one weapon, gets to write the end of your story. Not because you're strong enough to fight it off. Not because you prayed the perfect prayer. Not because you finally got your act together. But because you belong to the one no weapon can touch. Read that again. Let it sink past your defenses. The God who called you by name, who carved you into the palms of his hands, who sent his son to bleed for your freedom, that God has already declared the verdict over your life. And the enemy doesn't get a recount. The boss doesn't get a veto. The anxiety doesn't get the final chapter. The weapon may be real, but the victory is already settled. That's not positive thinking. That's blood-bought, resurrection-sealed, covenant-backed truth. And it's yours. Not when you feel it. Not when you deserve it. Right now. In the parking lot. At the kitchen table. In the hospital chair. The weapon is forged, but you are covered. But I'll be honest with you, sitting in that car on that gray morning, I didn't fully believe it yet. The verse was still fresh, still echoing from the night before, but my hands were still shaking on the steering wheel. The fear hadn't magically evaporated. The emails were still waiting. The conversation with my supervisor was still coming. And I still felt small, exposed, and utterly out of options. What I didn't know yet, what I was about to learn in the hardest and most beautiful way, was that the real battle wasn't against my boss or my deadlines or my bank account. The real battle was against weapons I couldn't even see. That morning, I realized the enemy doesn't need grand weapons. He used my own thoughts. Not the obvious ones, the ones that sound almost reasonable. The ones that replay at 2 a.m. like a playlist you never made but can't turn off. You're not good enough for this job. Everyone's going to find out you've been faking it. That email your boss sent? He knows. The silence from your friend? They've moved on. You're being managed out. You're too much. You're not enough. You're alone. I didn't even realize I was listening. I thought I was just thinking. That's the gaslighting genius of it. The enemy doesn't need to shout when he can whisper in your own voice. He doesn't need to break down your door when you're already holding it open with every anxious scroll, every rehearsed conversation, every catastrophic headline your brain writes before your feet even hit the floor. And the weapons aren't dramatic. They're boring. They're the procrastination that kicks in right when you need to act, because if you never finish, you can't fail, right? They're the quiet dread that pools in your stomach when you think about the future, so you just don't think about it. They're the comparison spiral at 11:47 p.m. when you're looking at someone else's highlight reel while your own life feels like a blooper reel nobody's laughing at. But here's what nobody told me: the most dangerous weapon isn't the one you see coming. It's the one you've normalized. The one you call just being realistic. The one you've mistaken for wisdom when it's actually warfare. I know this because I lived it. 3:12 in the morning. I'm staring at the ceiling again. The room is so quiet I can hear the wall clock ticking tick, tick, tick like a metronome counting down something I can't name. My phone is face down on the nightstand, but I can feel the inbox glowing through the case. 3 unread messages from my supervisor. A payment reminder I've been ignoring. That conversation I've been avoiding for 2 weeks because I know it's going to unravel something I'm not ready to face. I'm lying there, and the ceiling is just blank. Empty. Like the future feels. And I whisper, barely audible, more breath than voice, God, do you even see me right now? Because I feel invisible. I feel forgotten. I feel like I'm screaming underwater and no one's looking at the surface. I know you've had that night. Maybe it was 3:12 a.m. Maybe it was 1:47. Maybe it was this morning. The hour doesn't matter. What matters is the weight, the isolation, the fear that feels bigger than your faith. The honest, unpolished truth that sometimes you're not sure God's promises apply to you anymore. And here's where I need to pause and tell you something I'm still learning. Admitting that doesn't make you faithless. It makes you human. David, the man after God's own heart, wrote entire psalms asking God where he was. Jesus himself, in the garden, sweat blood and asked if there was another way. You're allowed to be honest. The faith that survives is the faith that stops pretending. That night, lying there, I didn't have a breakthrough. I didn't hear a voice. I didn't feel a supernatural peace. I just stayed there. Breathing. Staring. Waiting. But something shifted the next morning. Not because I woke up stronger. Not because the circumstances changed. But because I remembered something Paul wrote, and I'm going to tell you about it the way I lived it, not the way it's preached. I was sitting in the parking lot outside my office. Same gray building. Same dread. But this time, instead of scrolling my phone or rehearsing my defense, I closed my eyes. And I started doing something I'd never done intentionally before. I started putting on armor. Not physical armor. Not some dramatic, charismatic performance. Just me, in my Honda, eyes closed, hands on the steering wheel, whispering truth over every lie that had been looping in my head. I said, I put on the belt of truth. And I named the lies. The one about not being good enough, that's a lie. The one about being abandoned, that's a lie. The one about everything falling apart, lie. I didn't feel it yet. But I said it. I declared God's truth over the enemy's narrative, and something in the atmosphere of that car started to change. Then I said, I put on the breastplate of righteousness. Not my righteousness, I know my track record. His righteousness. The covering I didn't earn and can't lose. The right standing that isn't based on my performance review or my bank balance or my ability to keep all the plates spinning. I said it out loud, I am not defined by my failures. I am defined by what Jesus did. Then the shoes, the readiness of the gospel of peace. I said, I will not walk in panic today. I will walk in peace that doesn't make sense. Peace that isn't based on the inbox. Peace that isn't shaken by the conversation I still have to have. Then the shield of faith. And this one got me. Because I realized I'd been holding up all the wrong shields. I'd been shielding myself with people-pleasing, with over-preparation, with avoidance. None of it worked. But faith, the kind that says God is still good even when I can't see it, that shield extinguishes flaming arrows. The arrows of accusation. The arrows of worst-case scenarios. The arrows of shame and regret and what if. Then the helmet of salvation. I put my hand on my head, literally, in the car, looking probably insane to anyone walking by, and I said, protect my mind. The battlefield is in my thoughts. Cover my imagination. Cover my memories. Cover my anticipations. I will not be taken out by what I think. And then the only offensive weapon, the sword of the Spirit, the Word of God. Not just reading it. Not just quoting it. But wielding it. Speaking it. Aiming it at specific lies. I said, it is written, no weapon formed against me will prosper. It is written, I am more than a conqueror. It is written, he who began a good work in me will complete it. The moment I stepped out onto that rain-soaked parking lot, something shifted that I cannot explain with logic. I can only call it peace that surpasses all understanding. It wasn't that the circumstances had changed. My boss still hadn't responded. The hospital bill was still sitting on my kitchen counter. The inbox was still full. But something inside me had been repositioned. I had walked into that building feeling like a target, and I walked out knowing I was covered. Not because I felt it, because I had declared it. And declarations of faith carry weight in the spiritual realm that our emotions cannot override. So let me be that voice for a moment. Let me stand in the gap the way Paul talked about in Ephesians, not as someone who has it all figured out, but as someone who knows the one who does. Father, I lift up the person watching this right now. I don't know their name, but you do. I don't know what they're facing today, the diagnosis sitting in their voicemail, the conversation they're dreading with their spouse, the bank account they checked this morning and immediately regretted, the child they're worried sick about, the addiction they thought they'd beaten that came knocking again at 2 a.m. But you see all of it. And right now, in the name of Jesus, I ask you to silence every lie the enemy has been whispering over their life. The lie that says they're alone. The lie that says this will never get better. The lie that says they've messed up too badly for your grace to reach them. Every single one of those is a flaming arrow, and I'm asking you to extinguish them right now with the shield of faith. I pray for their mind, Father, the battlefield where so many of us lose the war before we ever step onto the actual field. Cover their thoughts. Cover their imagination. Cover their memories. The things that replay at 3 a.m. like a horror film they never bought tickets for, silence those. Replace them with truth. Replace them with the sound of your voice, which doesn't accuse, doesn't gaslight, doesn't shame. Your voice brings clarity where the enemy brings confusion. So give them clarity today. Give them wisdom to recognize which doors are from you and which ones are traps dressed up like opportunities. Close every wrong door, Father. Slam it shut. And open the ones no human being can shut, the ones Revelation talks about, the doors of purpose and provision and peace that only you control. I pray over their family. The tension in their marriage that nobody sees. The distance with their teenager that feels like a canyon they don't know how to cross. The aging parent they're caring for while trying to hold down a job and not completely fall apart. Lord, step into those spaces. Be the mediator where no human mediator is working. Be the healer where years of counseling haven't touched the root. I pray over their finances, not for a lottery ticket, not for some prosperity gospel nonsense, but for supernatural provision. For the check that shows up unexpectedly. For the debt to be canceled. For the favor at work that leads to the promotion they've been overlooked for 3 times. You are Jehovah Jireh. You are the God who sees the need and provides before we even know how to ask. And I pray over their body. The chronic pain they've learned to live with. The anxiety that shows up as chest tightness and shallow breathing. The exhaustion that no amount of sleep seems to fix. Lord, I ask for healing, real healing, the kind that doctors can't explain and medical bills can't produce. Touch their physical body even as I speak these words. Let them feel something shift. Let them feel hope rise where despair has been squatting. Now, right now, wherever you're, in a quiet room, on your bed with your phone in your hand, in your car before your shift starts, in the bathroom hiding from your kids for just 3 minutes of silence, close your eyes for 1 second. Just 1. Breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. And know this, you are not alone. That heaviness you've been carrying? You weren't designed to carry it by yourself. Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Not fix yourself first and then come. Not figure it all out and then approach me. Just come. Right now. In this moment. With the mess and the doubt and the questions and the parts of your faith that feel more like a flickering candle than a roaring fire. He's not intimidated by your honesty. He's not put off by your struggle. The God who spoke galaxies into existence can handle your confusion. So here's what I want you to do. And I'm not asking you to do this for likes or for the algorithm or for some social media performance. This is a prophetic act of faith. In the comments right now, type this declaration: I am covered by God, and today I will walk in victory. Don't just think it, type it. Let your fingers declare what your heart is choosing to believe even before your emotions catch up. Because there is power in the spoken word. There is power in the written declaration. The enemy wants you silent. He wants you isolated. He wants you scrolling passively, receiving but never releasing. But faith is active. Faith puts a stake in the ground and says, "This is what I believe, even if I don't feel it yet." So type it. I am covered by God, and today I will walk in victory. And if this prayer has met you where you are, if something in your spirit just took a deep breath for the first time in weeks, then like this video and subscribe. Not for me, for you. So that tomorrow morning, when you wake up and the battle starts all over again, there's a prayer waiting for you. There's a reminder waiting for you. There's a community of people declaring the same truth over their lives, and you are part of it. Here's the truth I want you to carry into the rest of your day, the truth that is still echoing in my own heart from that parking lot, from those early mornings when the alarm felt like an accusation, from the moments when I wasn't sure I had the strength to keep showing up.